Welcome back. The number of Canadians relying on a monetary gift from their parents to purchase a home has increased over the past several years. But with activity and prices in housing markets cooling, has the need for gifts also cooled? Let's bring in Benjamin Tal. He's Deputy Chief Economist at CIBC. Benjamin, I asked a senior real estate executive some years ago whether the so-called Bank of Mom and Dad was material in Toronto's housing market, and his answer in simple terms was absolutely. What is the story more recently?
Yes, absolutely is the right answer. You know, we started looking at this trend in 2021. We put together during COVID, when we were totally consumed by COVID. We looked at the number, we knew that the housing market was on fire, and we decided to see how much of this is due to parents gifting, and we found that about 1/3 of it was due to gifting in terms of down payment. So we decided to update this study today, and the trend is upward, not downward. So you see more gifting happening. This is a major issue impacting the Canadian housing market. Without this, many first-time home buyers will not have a chance to actually get into their dream.
You call it a major factor. What are some of the outcomes here? For instance, what role does parental gifting play in the price environment? Is this an upward pressure on home prices in some housing markets?
Absolutely, there's no question about it. I think that if you look at 1/3 of first-time home buyers are getting a gift, and also mover-uppers are getting a gift. So sometimes people are double dipping. They get a gift when they buy the first home, and when they move up, they get another gift. So that can be like $300,000-$400,000 cumulative. That's significant. Clearly, if you look at the size of the gift, we're talking about, depends where you live, $100,000-$200,000. In some places like Vancouver, $300,000. Those are major gifts that make a difference between buying a house or not buying a house. So the ability of parents to help their kids is significant in maintaining the upward pressure on the real estate market. And the softness that we are seeing now is only temporary. This is not a real softness. I think that the housing market will continue to go up over the next 10 years if we don't deal with the supply issue that we have. So this is good for the people who get the gifts. But what about people who don't get the gifts? Namely, the wealth gap, the gap that we have in Canada in terms of wealth is in fact widening because of that. Because the only people who get the gift are those that have parents that are able to give the gifts. If you don't have a parent or parents that can give the gift, you have a situation in which you are stuck relative to your peers. This is widening the already wide wealth gap in Canada.
And what are some of the concerns that an economist has about a widening wealth gap? What are some of the implications there, Benny?
Well, obviously, this is something that is suboptimal. We don't want to see that, and therefore we need to solve the housing crisis not just by parents gifting, but by raising supply and softening the demand. I was very vocal about slowing down the rate at which foreign students arrive to this country, and I'm very satisfied by the fact that the government decided to cap the number from 6.5% of population to 5%. This is a move in the right direction that will bring population growth back to semi-normal. We also have to really increase supply in a very significant way. I'm talking about incentives to developers to build purpose-built rentals. I'm talking about factory-made houses. I'm talking about 3D printed houses. All kinds of things like that will increase supply because we are in an emergency situation, no question about it.
Benny, where does the data come from on gifts being given and received by people in the housing market? Does this come from tax data? Does it come from surveys? Is this information that people are required in some way to disclose?
This is actually CIBC internal information. When you pay a down payment, the question that they ask you, and that's required, where the money is coming from. And part of it is gifts from family. So that's how we know it.
And not only is the frequency of gifts rising, but the amount of the gifts is rising as well. And I think we have a chart that can show an upward tracking line. We are now well into $100,000 plus territory is the average size of a parental gift, correct?
Absolutely, and that's really depends where you live. If you are in Vancouver, it's much more than that. If you are in Toronto, it's much more than that. The question that we still don't know, and that's something that we will look into, is how much to what extent those parents, gifters, are themselves getting into debt in order to help their kids. everybody's worried about their kids. You know, their dream to buy a house is not there if they don't get the gift. So to what extent parents get themselves into debt and actually risking their retirement in order to help their kids? That's an open question at this point. I don't have the answer.